Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the SMO part of the GSA Leagues 2019 Super Mario Odyssey, and I'm joined by Dangers for the first match between Orolme and Equan underscore or Equanimity or just Equan. There are many names, but at the end of the day, it's Equan, pretty skilled runner. Orolme, obviously part of the most skilled two-player lineup we do have at all. About to get that sub-hour time pretty much any day now. But yeah, Danger's joining me. First league match. So what do you think about this one?
My goodness, I have been looking forward to this since its announcement. I don't even know what to expect, to be honest. You know, there is quite the interesting format coming up with this style of league play where not only the winners walk away with points, but you do indeed get some points just for playing well enough against your opponents. So, you know, it's really hard to tell exactly how these races are going to go. You might see some racers, you already see Equan practicing lake clip here. You just really never know exactly what these runners are willing to pull out of their pockets to make the wins happen, to make the extra points happen.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure we will be able to give you guys exact data on all of the point shenanigans going on between. I mean, the intention of this is obviously to make, the competition aspect a little bit more interesting. You brought up Lake Clip, which is something. This race might be a pretty good example of this. Equan, obviously, part of the very top players there, and potentially, I guess, decently favored to win the match. We all know how these races go, though, like anything can happen. But even still, if he was to play to the best of his ability, something like Lake Clip that he might not do in a race previously might suddenly be of more interest, because you could gain these additional 5-7 seconds to maybe get another exclusive point for yourself.
Yep, that is correct. And, you know, it really just comes down to execution on those kinds of things. If you're the kind of runner that thinks that you are consistent at some of these harder tricks, you might just go for it to try and edge out a couple extra points.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we start right here, Econ with that Twitch Prime sub, obviously quick shoutouts to Twitch Prime, which allows everyone here in this competition right now, in this stream, to potentially link their Twitch Prime account, their Amazon Prime account to Twitch, and gain a free subscription to potentially support the GSA competition. But with that out of the way, thanks to Equan for subscribing. But we are on our way now, Equan, starting this one up. And I'm actually quite surprised about these timers. I'm not sure if we have some desyncing going on, because that was actually the spin pound. I was for some reason thinking he would have just woken up at 38 seconds, but he was already spin pounding, so there's obviously some that wasn't quite right by my understanding, so I just misread the situation there. So it looks like this is just a normal start. Timers should be completely fine, and both of them starting up here with the bridge.
Yeah, it does look like Equan has a little bit of a lead coming into the frog room here. Perhaps, like you said, just a missed spin pound?
Yeah, once again, just once again, I think that was just on my end there, just misreading the situation, thinking that the timers might be slightly desynced, because I'm used to like a different wake-up timing, but they were already spin pounding, so I was just misreading the situation. Anyways, those door fade-outs do look pretty good again with the 133. Therefore, Equan, Orolme just barely behind, and left side coming up. Equan manages to get that without any issues, and Orolme also scales the cap tower.
One of those tricks that you don't really see any runners struggle with anymore, you know? It's the one of those very early tricks that everybody's kind of got in their back pocket. You have a couple runners running other categories, which requires a checkpoint flag, and going out of your way kind of makes that trick harder. So, you know, just a bunch of different ways to set that up, and it can look really messy at the beginning, but almost everybody still gets it in the end.
Oh, I gotta be honest, dude. That checkpoint grab can make things really awkward if you're still trying to go left side.
Certainly.
I mean, today I've been running some Darker Side today. I think I've gotten it once and messed it up once, but it just definitely feels way different. But these guys won't have to deal with the checkpoint here. They want to beat the game as fast as possible. No backtracks required. So no checkpoint required as well. And one thing that obviously is going to make these leagues a lot more exciting as far as competitiveness going, like close races go, is the water version of the first moon skip, which is pretty known these days. I guess it's like, ooh, Equan actually taking a bonk right there. This might allow Orolme to quickly catch up here.
Now this
I'm not
really
sure if
playing
Equan...
in. Sorry, this really playing into, you know, taking the risky strats to try and earn those points. You saw Ekwang try and go for the wall jumpless
Yeah,
version
I
of
was
that
about to
trick,
bring it up.
and that is exactly what caused him to fall behind here.
Yeah, Equan pretty much going for it all. And I'm really interested because there have been a bunch of strats that have recently, I guess, come into mind for these runners. And this is, I think, mostly due to Chaos getting this rather drastic PB recently, getting a time of 1 hour and 24 seconds. So really closing in on that sub-hour gap. And looking at that run, we just realized that it was pretty flawless, and it's really some time to come up with some new, more risky strats. And I'm interested because if anyone, I think Equan is the person to actually, like, is the guy, literally, to try these strats out first in a race environment. Like something like the City Hall. I'm just going to tease that real quick. I'm not sure if he's actually going to be going for it, but there's some idea to basically cut out the elevator cycle in the Metro City Hall. So we'll see about that.
You just never know, but yes, you're right. Equan specifically, I can think of a couple other racers that might fall in line with that, perhaps Stravos as well. The kinds of racers that are probably more likely to kind of go all towards the edge, just try to do some of the riskier things, really just going to do the absolute fastest thing that you can do. Orolme probably looking to be a little bit more of a consistent player, sticking with what he knows. And, you know, that could just be what determines this race at the end of the day. Risky versus safe.
Yeah, and we'll see who comes out on top. Once again, the overall format of this league is probably going to fit Equan quite well, as long as he doesn't fall for, like, major, I guess, like, major fallbacks, like something like a missed chess clip, which is obviously not that major, but Orolme also bonking, so this actually gets kind of major now. Equan getting the chess clip without any issues, and Orolme having to deal with that weird backup movement and just barely making it, and suddenly probably looking at like a 7-second discrepancy between the two.
Unfortunate bonk on the first try to recover from the chess clip, but he does get the wall jumpless version on the second try. So unfortunate situation for Orolme coming out of Cascade here, but he is still keeping pretty decent pace with Equan.
But yeah, back to the point, I think this format of a league is something that fits Equan really well, as long as he doesn't have any major mistakes, because once again, he will be going for these tiny time savers, and if he has a good day, he might as well just win a race by like a lot. And then once again, this also applies to many other people like Chaos. Like if they go all out and they get there, like they will get rewarded for it. However, then again, if someone plays safe, they might also just have enough consistency to consistently gain the points for winning instead of risking to go for all the fast strats, which brings obviously a super interesting dynamic. And we cannot really even tell right now, because this is so new. We cannot even tell if it's if the best playstyle here is to play it risky, if the best playstyle is, I mean, time will tell, literally.
Yep. With such a new perspective on point systems in this, you know, we've kind of been going off of wins and losses, considering we are in a bit of a tournament format up until this day. You know, it's very easy to just say, you know, play consistently. If you know you can beat your opponent just on your movement alone, then just play it safe and you'll win. But in a situation like this, you don't really know what kinds of strategies can come up with. And I personally am trying to wrap my brain around what the best way to approach each matchup is. If I know that I'm not going to be necessarily coming away with the easy victory, what can I do to edge away some of those extra points?
Yeah, that's probably even more interesting. Like, if you consider yourself an underdog, suddenly you might be thinking, okay, the chances are high that I'm going to lose. How do I diminish my losses? How do I damage control here? What do I need to go for to potentially gain a little bit of points for being closer to the opponent?
Certainly.
And with some new information from the production about the actual point system, which we will get into as soon as we're done with the Sphinx clip question here, we are back quickly about to kind of explain you a little more how this point system is actually going to be working. I think it's going to be a good time to talk about this once these guys actually leave sand, but for now, Equan with a very solid first try clip here on the double clip portion, and looks like Orolme is not actually going to mess with that and just go for a single clip. At least that's what it's looking to be. Equan getting both clips first try though, which is absolutely impressive.
Orolme going for the safe strats here. He did miss the dram strat, setting it up, didn't get over the wall, had to take kind of the slow way into the alcove and kind of the climb of shame, if you will, to get back up to the bullet bill. So we are seeing a bit of a discrepancy here through sand. Equan, of course, does have a bit of a reputation to be one of the best early game players that the game knows as of now, coming in with some impressive sand exit leaves of very, very nearly 10 minutes flat. So it's no big surprise that Equan is running away with it for the early portion of the game. But that being said, we, of course, have seen these runners face off in the past, and things have changed dramatically towards the end of the race.
Exactly. So it looks like for now, Equan is probably holding on to a around 15 seconds lead here, rolling over 2 DOAs, which is mainly due to a little bit of cleaner movement overall, and also going for double clip, which adds up even more to that time that he's currently ahead by.
And I think it's really interesting as a runner specifically that you can kind of judge your pace in sand, specifically based on where the bird is when you arrive to the oasis. I know that a lot of other runners say something along the lines of, oh, the bird's in Antarctica right now. And that can kind of give you a pretty good example of just how well you've executed everything after your Sphinx clip. And so we saw Equan take a bonk on his way over to the bullet bill portion. Inside a rock is a hard place, so that bird was really close to him. Of course, that might seem fast, but it does mean that he probably lost a couple of seconds executing the movement there.
Yeah. And with notes out of the way for Orolme, it is probably a good time to actually talk about the point system in general. So the main idea here is basically there is 40 points on the line for a win. No matter who's going to be winning one of these matches, the winner is going to be getting these 40 points. However, there's another pool of 20 points that are going to be distributed depending on how much these guys are actually apart by the end of the race. So these points kind of get thrown around depending on like a 10-second scale, is what I want to say, distributed by like a 10-second scale. So, for example, if Equan wins by 10 seconds, he would actually be getting only one extra point from that pool of 20, and Orolme would actually be getting 19 extra points just for being that close. Even though he lost, he would still be getting 19 points, and Equan would be getting 41. And then every 10 seconds that Equan wins more by, he gets one more point of that pool of 20, and Orolme one less, until basically the 3-minute mark is reached. And this is where Equan would basically get the most amount of points possible, which would be a 59, as he's going for late clip right now, so really making these points count, and he does get it immediately, one of the fastest ones I've seen in a long time, so you can be happy about that. But yeah, the best you can basically get is a 59 if you win by like 3 minutes, and then depending on how much the difference actually is, and we will get into that as soon as these races end, the loser will get up to 19, which is the best you can get if you like only lose by 10 seconds.
Yeah, and on the flip side, there is no way to earn 0 points in a race of this format. You will be at least getting 1, but that even is in a situation where you lose by 3 minutes or more. So it is very likely that the loser will still walk away with a handful of points, if any at all. So there is no chance of a quote-unquote shutout, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah. Just as an update, basically. So the lowest time difference is obviously less than 10 seconds. So if you win by only 7 seconds, or if you win by only 5 seconds, you're still going to be getting these 19, giving these 19 points to the loser, and only going to be yielding in 1. But for now, Orolme is going to be ending the Rango fight with the spin throw there to cash in some money. That is obviously mostly needed due to the way we play Wooded these days, where we skip the entirety of the Spearhead fight. This was usually our source of coins, but not anymore. So gotta bank in as many coins as we can get there. But Econ can be fairly happy about this lake, probably looking at around a 13, I guess like 12 time, 13, looks like a 13-13 actually. So yeah, not the best lake in the world, but a very good lake. Actually, I mean, not even lake. That lake was pretty phenomenal, but I mean, just lake fade out time.
Yeah, just a little bit of slop within Cascade and Sand specifically, I would say. Ekwan probably not showing his absolute best time through the kingdom, but still coming out ahead as we leave Lake.
Yeah, we are going to be keeping an eye on the exact time difference between the two. Obviously, especially at the end where we will break down the actual points total these guys will get, since this is SMO any percent, which tends to be around an hour and 2 minutes, an hour and 3 minutes, and 1 minute, or even just an hour, maybe sub 1 hour soon. We are obviously only going to be having one race. If you've just tuned into the Celeste League, we are having 3 races right there, since these runs occasionally tend to be less than 30 minutes. So one race is the format here. Everybody will play everybody in the league at least, I guess, like once. So we'll see every matchup happen eventually. And for now, once again, Equan here versus Orolme, high-level runners, participants of the league. And Equan probably looking at around a 25-second lead. This is what I would be guessing right now. It looks like he actually might be going for one of the newest edits to the Wooded Kingdom route, which is something that we've only, I think in GSA at least, only seen out of Suisega in the any percent grand finals so far, which is acquiring that tall tree moon. And he's going to be skipping the Piranha story moon later on, basically skipping the entirety of the cutscene and going for a very scary version of the Flower Road skip.
And much like any reroute that takes out cutscenes, of course, there is a element of optimization that is required to make these kinds of things work in your favor. We kind of estimate that 2 seconds is approximately how much this trick can save. Ekwan here showing a little bit of difficulty coming in with the out-of-bounds movement, actually. And Orolme's right on his tail now. You do have to realize that Ekwan does have 1 moon up on Orolme.
Oh, no!
Oh, but Orolme comes back in bounds.
That is worse. That is way worse. So he's going to be, since he actually did... Wait, he didn't get the moon, so never mind. I was about to say, if he had gotten the moon, he could have been at least semi-happy about it, but now it's his choice to either try to go for the rock clip here, which is something that many runners might be rusty on. I feel like this is probably one of the biggest things to kind of refresh on as this league format starts going, because Equan obviously at the very end managing to go through that out-of-bounds section, got to be fairly happy about this one, as long as he makes the Flower Road skip. But yeah, this rock clip can be pretty detrimental for you in a race situation like that, because it would probably still have saved him around 15 seconds if he had gotten it like first try there.
A little bit of rust showing from Ekwan in the out-of-bounds portion, perhaps, but he is coming through and making it happen. Orolme diving into the inbounds portion, actually opting to go for the route that was essentially best back in the day. So, you know, this is going to be to Orolme's detriment for sure. And, you know, he's really going to have some work to do coming into the later kingdoms.
Let's look at Equan right now, because that was a pretty tough call. He's actually about to take some damage here on the poison. He needs to make this Flower Road skip work, because if he falls here, he will actually end up spawning back at the shop. But he at least manages to bridge the gap here between the Crumbling Tower and the main section of the Steam Gardens, and looks like he will be getting this moon. All he needs to do right now is basically enter the tower without a death, and this would be his checkpoint. Actually going for very interesting strats here, going for all of these finicky, techy strats all around the place, but now he is actually safe, since this is going to be his next checkpoint going forward.
Yep. Don't have to worry about warping back to the beginning of the kingdom at all. You know, this is going to give Orolme a little bit of a chance to catch up. That being said, he does have to do the Spirit fight. There is no chance to do a Spiritless variation of the route anymore. So Ekwan still holding on to a pretty firm lead.
Absolutely. Yeah, Equan definitely building up a pretty solid lead, but we've seen Equan lose pretty big leads. in the history of GSA so far. Once again, tends to be a little bit cocky, tends to go for all of the fancy strats, usually succeeds at them, but suddenly there's this one thing that doesn't go in his favor, and you know how this game works. If it happens at the wrong time, in the wrong place, you lose like a minute. That's Super Mario Odyssey for you.
And with the stakes so high and the tension being the way that it is in a race format, something that we haven't really seen, as a whole in the speedrunning community. You know, it's mostly you against yourself. But when it comes to a race format, you know, you add an extra element of stress and anxiety and maybe a little bit of nerves as well. So, you know, tilt is one thing, but tilt when you're in a race format trying to beat another player to the end, that really just ramps up the stakes.
Yeah, I've always been a believer in this kind of format completely branching out in its own, like, I guess, genre of speedrunning. So many new factors get thrown into it. It's suddenly really like a different thing. So we are obviously going to be learning with experience here. This is going to be giving us huge amounts of data, and these runners will be gaining experience here. How much does that actually play a factor? Because they will efficiently actually be seeing how their opponent is doing in real time. So once again, this factor might become really real as soon as you glance over at the other screen to check how your opponent is doing.
Yeah, but I think that is another important factor to really drive home here, is that unlike previous tournaments where the runners were asked to leave the call and kind of set up in blind situations, now they are indeed with us in the call on deafen, so they can't talk, they can't communicate with the commentators, but they do see in live time exactly where their opponent is, and that really can play into the kind of competitive element of how these races work and how these points work. You can see perhaps that you are ahead and you might just opt for the safer strat to keep that lead, or you might see that you're behind and you might be willing to pull that kind of tricky strat out of your back pocket to make a comeback work.
Yeah, and it's really a question of also gauging and actually looking at, okay, currently I'm like 1 minute and 30 seconds ahead. It's currently worth to go for the specific strat to get another 10 seconds under the belt for an additional point. But we'll see how this is developing. For now, Equan is in Cloud Kingdom fighting Bowser for the first time. Orolme is about to head over there. And so far, Equan hasn't been having any issues and is about to go into the third phase here. Damage boost done. Backflip done. Not grabbing the head immediately, but this is not going to be a big problem. Still grabs it, still gets fast hits here on Bowser and finishes the fight.
At least the hat going in the right direction for Equan there. Of course, if it goes back towards Bowser, he grabs it and initiates another hat throwing phase. So he is going to be happy to see that working in his favor at least. And as Equan leaves, Orolme enters Cloud Kingdom. So we are about 1.5 minutes apart from each other at this point in the run.
And Lost coming up for Equan. Scary plays in the run. Equan, however, probably one of the best Lost Kingdom runners overall. Have seen some pretty nasty stuff out of him when it comes to this kingdom, and this meme tree hasn't been an issue for him. Actually, Orolme having quite some issues there, showing the frustration with the first person. The I guess widely accepted sign for frustration, the first person camera.
Yep, and shaking the camera vigorously in between Odyssey power-up cutscenes. That's one of my favorites as well.
Hopefully the third phase doesn't treat Orolme as bad. It looks like he will be getting the fast head grip there. It's substantially easier since you get to like damage boost into the head and still go for this back flip. So actually watching Bailey's run at Awesome Games Done Quick made me realize that you can in fact actually damage boost on the second phase and then just single jump, which is something that I'm actually going to be looking into because those backflips can be quite weird. Not sure if it's any faster, slower, something to be worth looking at. But so far, Lost has been pretty solid for Equan. He just had some issues there on the moon in the staircase there. I guess I think it's called the Rising Stone Pillar, even though it's clearly a staircase. Equan also going for triple jump at the cage and nails it.
Orolme showing the meme tree strategy there with the homing return cap there. I really enjoy that strategy. I never think to do it myself, but it really does set up Cappy to return at just the right time to make that cap return jump off of the tree happen on a consistent basis. Something that we saw Suisaiga do in around the World Peace Tournament, I think, is when we first started kind of observing him do that. Very solid strategy from Orolme.
Yeah, I'm doing that, and I know Equan has been doing it for quite a long time. But one thing that is actually making the strat one thing that's really vital to the strat is actually motion control homing Cappy in. Because if you don't do that, sometimes Cappy would not return. And I think that's actually the reason Equan changed to what he's doing currently, which is just kind of approaching the tree from the right side, which might just be a little bit slower, but a lot safer and a lot more consistent. But yeah, when you get that consistency, when you are able to consistently home and Cappy back with the motion control input, it's definitely very fast and very efficient.
Ooh, no, and Orolme taking a fall on the meme tree, actually landing on the root of the tree. Oh, and with the backup, falls into the purple poison. So he's going to have to make his way back up to the top of the tree to grab that moon. It did look like the Torpedo was able to blow up the cage, but yeah, it's a 20-second time loss you hate to see. That cage triple. Oh, it didn't actually break the cage. Oh, no.
What? I'm still confused. Like, I think his cap, when he was trying to back that up, his cap was... I think he was about to dive onto the cap, and Equan actually also taking a fall here. Also pretty big one, not the end of the world, but he's gonna have to go all the way back up to that Goomba section, and he's actually opting for a pretty interesting backup, definitely way faster than having to go all the way around again to get to the electrical wire, but both of them having some issues there. And Equan is actually not messing around. I brought it up literally at the start of this race, trying to go for the elevator. Wow, and actually nails it easily, going for that hot spin to get rid of all of the Goombas and basically skipping the cycle of the first elevator, even going even faster through that city. Oh, that's super nice to see. Extremely recent strat, and actually fairly incredible to see him go for that in a race setting.
Yeah, something that Goryuya has developed recently, and we are just starting to see, you know, when you mentioned Chaos Pringle's 10024 and looking at new strats in order to make the sub-hour more reasonable and closer every day, those are the kinds of things that we need to look at. And yes, of course it looks scary, and of course it looks very hard to pull off, but that's kind of the level that we're at with this game already.
Yeah, I think the main thing that can be scary about this is somehow not efficiently getting rid of all of the little yellow Goombas and them like messing with your landing, because you can easily get pushed down into the abyss of the city or there, which I'm actually not quite sure how this place works. Like, as far as I remember, there's like a thing down there where people play like instruments later in the game, but I guess in nighttime it just has like no floor. But I mean, video games.
Oh, video games.
But so far, Equan is looking to pull off this 2-cycle right here, getting some pretty solid shots in. Hopefully managing to save that one, and he does get 2-cycle. Nicely done. This Night Metro has been pretty solid. I mean, obviously very unfortunate fall earlier on, but a very respectable City Hall portion there especially.
Yeah, I would say not quite making up the time that he lost falling down the building, but definitely earning it back in style points, if nothing else.
Yeah, surely not. Even though this strat looks super fancy, probably looking at maybe one, probably less seconds as far as time save is concerned. I mean, depending on what you did previously, you can probably yield in a second with that if you just play it super clean. There's also something that most people have not been doing yet, which makes it even more scary. You can potentially jump from the little platform where the chest is on instead of going for the higher platform. So there is still some work to be done on the highest level of City Hall climbs. Interesting portion that we haven't been looking at too much, but suddenly getting some revisits. But yeah, not as much of time save as him falling down at that Night Metro portion, obviously losing. But right now, also struggling a little bit with that secret girder tunnel moon here, getting it at the very end and also managing to capture warp back out.
And a bit of an underrated thing that you don't really think about in Day Metro is that once you've entered, everything is on a cycle. You've got these taxis rolling around these buildings, and any time that you waste kind of in the beginning portion of Day Metro is going to throw these taxi cycles off just a little bit. So if Ekwan is not quite fast enough here, he might have to deal with a taxi in his way after bench friends.
Ekwan making some friends on the bench, as you just said, as Orolme is about to challenge Wiggler for a potential, hopefully 2-cycle. Pretty weird awkward first shot. He is going to be able to take out these additional balls of the Wiggler right here, but this is actually a really weird spot, and he does manage to sneak in a shot right there. But if the, I guess, part of the Wiggler that is still active is away that much, like that far from you, and you're also in this weird angle where you kind of can only hit the side of the thing, it can get really frustrating to hit it. But Orolme managing to get it and managing to save the 2-cycle, and Ekwan having to deal with that taxi, as you brought up earlier.
Yeah, not only the one place with the bench friend, but if you do everything optimally after bench friend, you also have to deal with a taxi on your way over to the drummer there. So it is very important to kind of keep your momentum through. It's almost better to just like maybe waste an extra second to make the taxis get out of your way, because then you'll be wrestling with them throughout the entire portion up to the drummer. But he is doing his best to continue through anyways. And Orolme finally approaching Day Metro. Let's see if he can make up some time here by playing it a little bit cleaner. Yeah, his setup looks good for this quote-unquote Metro Dram, the first version of it. Rolling through, the taxis are good, so it's going to come down to Scoot Clip to make sure that he can keep the time going, keep the consistency going. With a little bit of a slow setup there, but he is probably still on pace to beat the taxi to the bench friend as long as he plays this Trash Moon safe.
Unfortunate ledge grab there for him, and also missing that ground pound, and some of these tiny little mistakes are usually adding up even more than the most obvious ones. And yeah, looks like the taxi is going to be just immediately blocking him here in his way over to a little pole. So let's see how he's going to be dealing with it. Ekwan about to climb up to dizzying heights as he's approaching the tower here. Orolme trying to deal with the taxi. Actually pretty smart approach, but not getting the spin throw to land immediately.
Ekwan getting the very, very swaggy roll, or spin pound rather, off of the top of City Hall. You know, one of those things that, you know, I still don't really understand myself. I just kind of go for it and hope for the best. But definitely works out in your favor. You do get quite a better falling speed if you're able to pull that trick off. So good to see that Ekwan was able to pull it off here.
And Orolme with all the right ideas. Like, he has the setups for all the stuff in basically set. An example would be that pole grab after the girder, but then just a tiny little, I guess, input mistake causing him to not. Whoa, that was so lucky!
Oh my
Ekwan
goodness.
almost diving all the way back down, but somehow grabbing that ledge out of a dive. I don't even know how that happened. That was so lucky.
Yeah, the video game treating him nicely there, working in his favor. In any situation like that, you would probably see Ekwan having dived off the platform entirely. So he's probably taking a big deep breath in a situation like that. Lucky for Ekwan.
Yeah, this could have been a pretty big loss. Like, he would, I mean, there's actually a strat where you can climb that platform from the other side of City Hall, but I'm not sure if he's aware of how that actually works, because it is quite finicky. So potentially he would have needed to go back all the way and then bounce up the trampolines again, probably looking at something like a 10-12 second time loss. Orolme obviously still fairly far apart from him right now, just climbing up the dizzying heights to get that moon up top. And Ekwan is already on his way over to Snow.
And now I would say that we're approaching the part of the game where Ekwan perhaps doesn't shine quite as much. You know, he is very good at some of the trickier strats. I think he has good consistency with things like Snowdram and things like the Salt Pile Triple and Turnip Clip. I think that the tricks themselves Ekwan has in the bag, but when it comes to the actual consistency of the late game, that's where we're going to see perhaps a couple of stumbles on Ekwan's part, if anywhere at all. So Orolme does have that in his kind of bag. As long as he continues to play safe and consistently, he might be able to make up some ground here.
Yeah, for sure. So far, the snow has been looking very good, though, for Econ. Not many issues to struggle with. This is the official mid-game potion. Not potion, but rather portion, obviously. It looks like Econ has been cleaning that up quite a bit as well. I'm sure he might not be at the highest level of his performance right now. I'm not sure if he's super on point, like super practiced, but looks like he will actually be trying to go for that moon clip. Not quite getting it. Once again, a pretty finicky, techy strat that you can do. And as we see, Econ here is going all out, even going for stuff like this, not managing to get that you can actually clip with that moon to, I guess, avoid having to go all the way around and just straight up go through the wall.
And that setup for the Taifu room here, something that I probably wouldn't go for. Just a little bit of a scary looking tech, getting some very tight long jumps in places, avoiding bonking on some walls. Of course, long jumps are probably not the best movement tech in this game for a number of reasons. One being that they're slow. The other reason being that just like diving and rolling, you can bonk on things. So a very risky way of getting around, but he does make that look rather easy.
Absolutely. Orolme now also on his way over to enter Shiveria. Still has to talk with Captain Toad outside. He's destroying pretty much the entirety of his basement, so pretty heartless there by him. But what can you do? It's all about the speed. Kill the animals, baby.
Kill the animals. Save the frames.
And yeah, Equan, solid Goomba NG, not the very best I've ever seen, but still able to collect 2 Goombas and then basically lure in the other 2 to build up the stack while the icicle is falling down.
Yeah, it all comes down to the placement of the Goombas, what kind of RNG you get. A lot of patterns can yield you basically the icicle falling just as you are able to stack up the final one and kind of move in that direction. But there are some kind of nasty patterns that you have to deal with sometimes. Speaking of saving the frames, Snow Kingdom looking a lot like Rockville as we were leaving.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Rockville, definitely the host of speedrunning for the last week. That was actually the place where awesome games took place. Pretty amazing stuff, right? They actually got to meet my co-commentator in person.
In person.
Crazy.
I was
crazy.
popping
This is the
off,
future of
to say the
speedrunning.
least. And we were literally flying through to Chick-fil-A together as a speedrunning duo.
Yeah, Simply and Pity trying to go to Taco Bell, that's some 2018 stuff. Chick-fil-A, definitely the future. But looks like Orolme having a solid blowy jerk boom. Econ actually about to hit that snowdrum. It looks like, yeah, actually, Econ probably one of the most consistent ones at snowdrum. Very, very rare for him to miss. I don't recall me seeing him missing that once in a run.
And he cleared it by a mile. There was no question there at all. I've noticed that some runners at the top level are starting to kind of implement a second vector into their snowdrams, and I think that that really is the key to making it a 100% consistent. Before, we were basically focusing on just timing, and that alone is well and good, but you see that after the first cap bounce, you get a little bit of an extra vector out of that second bounce, and it really does make the difference in making this a consistent trick.
Yeah, and then to be fair, once again, the setup as far as like the Odyssey is concerned that many people use, where you basically use like that one Japanese character to align with that big screw. I'm not sure how many people actually use that. I personally used it, and this is still something that Equan made up pretty long ago. And once again, him really making that first ever tutorial for that snow jump, like extra tutorial. It was like, some text tutorial, but still worked for me. So yeah, definitely really good at the trick, but looks like not so much at that first climb here of C-Set. I cannot really blame him because this wall has some pretty weird properties with some rock, I guess, carvings sticking out of the wall. Makes it harder to get those consistent wall jumps, and he does have to suffer here a little bit, but won't be the end of the day.
Doing that tech fast, that very first jump off the seaside cliff there, that is a very underrated portion of the whole run, I would say. This entire first section of Seaside, actually, we used to think that Seaside was kind of the sleeper portion of the run, where you could kind of relax after having to do Snowdram and right before going into luncheon. But you know, you really can't underestimate the dry portion of Seaside. There is a lot of tech involved, using kind of everything in Mario's toolkit to make the beginning portion of Seaside work in your favor, and that's where all the time is going to be lost.
Some pretty hot racers right there. Snowdram out of the way. Orolme even going for that little roll cancel strat there where you bounce on top of Cappy, kind of going for a roll cancel jump and just carrying your momentum over into a Cap bounce out of a jump, which is something we don't see much, but Equan going for that Flower Rocket refresh with the ground pound. Pretty standard these days. Having some issues there getting an actual normal Cap throw and unfortunate up throw. So losing a little bit of speed, but still able to get to that cheap.
Now, I have seen some interesting tech come out of this very final portion of the Rocket Flower refresh, coming with having a runner playing on the Joy-Cons actually for Underscore. So he did not develop the trick, but we might actually see him go for it. Essentially, as you're running up to that final portion where the Cheeps are swimming underneath, you can do a down throw, jump over the platform, and then ground pound on the other side to capture a Cheep quickly that way, rather than having to ground pound in the water initially with a spin throw. I'm not sure if that's any faster, but it definitely is flashy, and I wonder if we'll be able to see something like that from Fur Underscore specifically as the tournament, or as the league goes on.
This Fur Underscore guy. The Joy-Con abuser. No, I'm definitely very sure there's definitely potential for this. Joy-Cons usually are the most powerful in these underwater sections. This has been proven if you look at stuff like Lake Clip in general, or even some other longer categories where there's some moons that are only really, I guess, fast enough if you are using Joy-Cons, because you can do these down throws under the water. So this is usually where Joy-Cons thrive even more. But Orolme actually taking a bonk there at that third moon. This is known to kind of trick runners into thinking, once again, thinking you're actually able to grab a certain object, but this is more 3D than it initially might seem.
Yeah, you do have a little bit of depth here, and really I think that the best way to gauge where you are is to use your shadow and see just how far in or out. It's basically dead center of the quote-unquote 2D area, but you do have to know where you stand in that plane.
For sure. Looks like Orolme doesn't want to mess with any Flower Rocket refresh strats here, just diving into the moon, probably about to capture Mr. Gushen over here. And just swim all the way across. And Equan is already making his way over to Lanchion. Once again, Lanchion. Once again, pretty tech-heavy place. After that, we will be going into Ruins, so this is where you gotta get the blood flowing before the big break. Being Ruin Kingdom. Then again, it's Equan racing here, so Ruin might also be his demise, but we'll see.
Yep, like I mentioned earlier, these racers do have some history in GSA events in the past. Of course, one very substantial race sticks out in my mind, that being Orolme versus Equan. Orolme with a trail of about 2 minutes going into Ruin Kingdom. Equan doing some interesting tech maneuvers, not necessary at all, and causing the race to switch sides by the time we were leaving Bowser's Kingdom. So, you know, you just never know what is going to happen in, you know, situations like this.
For sure. It's just way too tough to make that call. And then once again, it's not only the win that matters here. It's right now Equan, to be fair, and this is like deserved, has been building up a very solid lead just by going for, I guess, better execution, more tech, more tricks. So if he ends up and wins that race by around the difference he has built up right now, this is definitely a good point of him really pushing himself to go for harder strats and potentially maximizing his wins here. We'll see though. Obviously his lead right now is pretty comfortable, but he still needs to drive it home.
Yeah, and in a position like Equan's, you know, I would think maybe, you know, I am ahead by a good portion. It makes sense to go for some riskier strats, not saying that Equan would back out of them anyways, but if he's able to squeeze a couple extra seconds out of this victory, potentially earning himself some more points.
Absolutely. Very hot spin pound there coming out of Equan to make his way into. Oh, actually also going for another pretty recent addition here. Unfortunately getting an unintended up throw there, which will not be the end of him. It's just has been timed recently again that it is just a little bit faster to make your way up there, I guess, up to this blue mountain pretty quickly, and then use the entirety of the surface to just roll across, because you basically effectively skip a capture, which tends to be slow in this game. And this is something that has been a trend again. Skipping cycles, skipping captures. This is something that has just recently been revisited, looking at the Metro strat, looking at the Pokio strat, which is actually something that Goryuya has been doing in Bowser's Kingdom, where you skip the last capture of the Podoboo and basically just lure him into shooting the cannonball into the block by, I guess, just by manipulating him. But it's a common theme with newer strats now to look at this again.
Yeah, basically taking everything that we do not have direct control of the time over, essentially cutting out cutscenes, cutting out capture warps, you know, mashing as much as we can, basically trying to eliminate the game's time out of the equation as much as we can so that we can convert it to gameplay and optimize that as best as we possibly can.
Yeah, this has really been the theme of any percent, like death to all cutscenes, like pretty much, and even capturing is a cutscene in some type. In some, I guess, in some shape or form. Like, we've been trying to route out cutscenes wherever we can. Every boss fight, every capture, and so on. Every story moon.
You know, talking about Chick-fil-A and being in Luncheon Kingdom is really not helping my appetite right now.
That's true. I've actually just eaten fine, but luncheon pretty delicious. As long as everything is going well, because as soon as things start going south, everybody hates the kingdom.
Yeah, you don't want any sour turnips in your Luncheon Kingdom. So Ekwan approaching this one here, did not go for the golden turnip, but his setup looks fantastic.
Yeah, this one looking rather sweet instead of sour. So Ekwan making this turnip work easily, which is pretty much the last hard and scary thing in Luncheon. I mean, obviously, it's not scary because there's this jump from the moon called Surrounded by Tall Mountains, which is the last ground pound moon we get before actually capturing the meat on our way to the multi-moon. I guess that can get scary, but this is really where time losses can easily happen, but Ekwan has this out of his way.
Yeah, we can't really ask for a much better setup than that. Did get the Kobe strategy for the turnip, as we say. There is a bit of a faster setup that involves throwing it from farther away, but, you know, as long as you can get that initial throw and not have to set up again and adjust and have to recapture the Hammer Brother and all those kinds of things, you're basically looking at an optimal turnip clip.
Whoa,
interesting
that was actually
tech from Ekwan there, too.
That was so fancy. What?
I don't even really know what happened there.
I'm not completely sure. It looked like, I mean, I'm not sure. He did like an up throw roll cancel, but I'm not sure if that was actually his intention or if he just wanted to roll cancel anyway. But that looked really fast. I'm not sure if he actually like intentionally up throw roll cancel and dived up or like onto it. I wasn't quite able to catch. But once again, so far Ekwan's run has been pretty phenomenal. Very, very rarely has he been making mistakes, and if the mistakes happen, they were actually rather big and unfortunate. Like the fall in Night Metro. But yeah, other than that, it has been pretty hot.
Yeah, he is gliding through Luncheon Kingdom on his way to Ruined now. And, you know, this could be the make or break moment. We just don't know.
Yeah, Ruined, definitely. Probably Ekwan's PTSD moment of the run. I'm pretty sure since these leagues are starting on right now, he's going to be taking it very seriously. There's no way Ekwan would ever mess around in that place again. I don't know. This is kind of his charm as a runner, though, going for everything. This is like what we know Ekwan for, and would be weird if he wouldn't. So it's up to him, obviously, what to do here. Right now, he's definitely on that comfy lead. I'm not quite able to tell if it is already something around the 3-minute mark. I'd say more like 2 is what we're looking at right now. Not exactly 3 yet, but potentially able to maximize his point gain here once again. If he was able to beat Orolme by 3 minutes, he would be getting 59 points out of this. Orolme only getting 1 in that specific instance, and depending on how well he's going to be able to catch up, potentially make a comeback, we don't know. That point total will, I guess, differ, but for now, Ekwan definitely solidly in the lead.
Yeah, and hopefully holding on to that as best as he can. Entering the first phase of the dragon here, pulling the pins, getting the ground pound, and now it's just time to see if he's going to try and go for that risky show-off strat here. Doesn't look like it. Looks like he's going the opposite direction. Going to play it safe. Probably the smart move to hold on to as many points as he can.
Yeah, no out-of-stage wall jump shenanigans. Just beat the dragon. Respectable, definitely. Once again, this match is... It's hard to tell, though. Like, we say it's pretty high stakes. It's just because of the exclusivity of the league and it being so new. But then I guess it's arguably... You can arguably say that a tournament match is high stakes because if you lose twice, it's over. And I guess you can have an off game here in the leagues, which also makes it nice because everybody just has like a bad day and has like something like not working for them. But yeah, once again, everybody obviously wants to do their best, and the way this point system works, you want to get the best result every race. And Econ actually only at 1 HP here, which makes things incredibly scary every time you do fight the dragon at this phase, and just avoiding the little... I'm not sure if that's fuzzies, but whatever enemy that is avoiding him below his feet, so he is able to defeat the dragon without a death.
I think the colorful ones are called burbos.
Burbos? Dude, what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Who came up with these names? No, for real. Like, actually, let's go over them as Orolme is going into this kingdom here. So they have seaweed, and it's called kombu.
Okay, that one does make sense because kombu is actually a Japanese word for like a type of seaweed.
Oh my god!
So we do have that going for them.
Okay,
and I think Pokyo is a very clever name in itself. And we
okay, I can see that. Okay, I have an absolute counterpoint. Stairface ogre.
Right.
Okay, so I got you on that one. But that's the official name of the ogres running around in Bowser's Kingdom. Nintendo just always needs to be fancy.
Oh, okay. So Orolme debating us a little bit with his coming around the side here. I'm not sure if he's doing that. Oh, maybe just to eliminate some of the electrical wheels there. Interesting.
I'm not sure. That might have also been like a shout out to Equan, and I don't know. Like, this is close to what Equan has been doing, but this might also be an actual useful strat. I don't know.
But yeah, going back to enemy names, we all know and love Podoboos from other Mario games, but for some reason in this game they decided to change the official name to Lava Bubble. I'm not sure where that decision came from.
Yeah, actually some insight from Equan, who has been bringing up and also me checking back here, that strat that he was doing earlier there in Luncheon. There's apparently some tech that I also find it very interesting now, glancing over it again, found by Mitch, who has been really at the grind for these very high-level movement strategies. And doing an intentional up-throw roll cancel actually makes it so that you can jump out of it back into the head. Because usually if you do a roll cancel, obviously Cappy will be away from you for quite a while. But if you do it that way, you have immediate access for Cappy. So you can basically roll, up-throw roll cancel, and then perform cap dives. So you can, I guess, gain some faster movement in these shorter grounded sections where you wouldn't be able to roll otherwise.
Yeah, and it would make sense to do that rather than a spin throw, because at that particular point, if you were to spin throw roll cancel, you would be looking at not being able to get enough height to get up to the fork flick, and you would be falling down. So very smart tech from Equan there. Oh, and perhaps my favorite enemy name of all time has to go to, hands down, first place medal going to Brigadier Mollusk Lancer III, Dauphin of Babylone, of course.
Oh yeah, by far.
Yeah.
That's my boy over
That's
there
my boy.
in Babylone. But Equan is starting up this chart section right now, and looks like he would actually miss the dive back strat on the second chart. He has been going for quite a few new strats, but I'm pretty sure not really anyone has been really looking into that Goryuya strat where you kind of manipulate the Pokyo into shooting it, shooting the, I guess, cannonball into the block without having to deal with the capture. Once again, potentially skipping that capture-uncapture shenanigan. But yeah, this is something I'm pretty sure no one has been really looking into yet, and this might be more finicky, because you obviously need to have a pretty flawless chart to be even able to do it, because that cannonball is on a cycle. So yeah, pretty niche strategy.
Yep, and it's big, of course, these birds are kind of wandering around in a cycle, so making that strategy work is probably not something that we'll see in races as of yet, until we've kind of understood it better. But oh my goodness,
oh,
Equan
that's
with the
actually...
capture warp to save. Oh, that was an IQ strat right there.
That's the best part about this strat. Like, if you dive off, as long as you nail the cap throw, you get the save out of it. So pretty clutch there.
And Orolme showing off his 2-player skills here. I'm not sure if this is actually optimal for 1 player, but it is something that you kind of see in the 2-player because it's just the easiest way to get up there. And I personally like it aesthetically. It's a very pleasing and kind of satisfying way to get up to the top.
Yeah. This is if we talk about visually pleasing, the 2-player strat is actually done there is even better, because they mainly do this to be able to have Cappy stack close to that electrical wire, and then they get the moon behind the wall and fly across the stage with a huge capture warp, which is obviously something that is sadly not possible in 1 player, because that would by far be faster than the little boxes moon over there, but we just don't have enough reach when it comes to Cappy being away from you. It looks like Equan is gonna be siding with Harriet first gang right here. Obviously, Optimus Speedrunner definitely being honest to himself here.
You know, you read left to right, it just makes sense.
Orolme missing that 3rd shot, and that spin throw didn't cooperate with him at all. Trying to literally dodge the shot, but he will be able to make it over there, get the shot in on that block, and he's also soon to head towards that brutal battle, the big one. Sadly getting attacked there by a poke, you're going to be taking a hit, which is going to result in him having a damage refill. Pretty much synced story moons here, but the story moon that Equan is currently collecting, I guess definitely the slowest single moon. I mean, you don't even have to, it's the slowest single moon in any percent, and I'm thinking I mean, other than achievement moons, it might be close to being one of the slowest one in the game. Maybe volleyball coming in mind there as like the 100 volleyball, but that moon is incredibly slow, and we do have to get it sadly. We have to fight both bosses to get it.
Certainly, and I suppose you're taking out of the equation things like multi-moons, which of course the boss fights are relatively slow themselves. And
yeah, but then again, you actually get 3 moons for it, so it's
exactly.
still more worth, technically, I guess.
And I suppose you could factor in things like Toadette's achievements. Of course, jumping 10,000 times has to be the slowest, but you're absolutely right there. As far as single moons within the game is concerned, yeah, even like the longest sub-areas probably do not take nearly as long as having to beat 2 brutals to get 1 single moon.
It's going to be pretty visible right here. So they've basically been in the story moon cutscene at the same time, and Equan is already about to start up the mech fight here. He does get the spin throw on Rango immediately, and he's also going to make his way over here to, I guess, hit Topper, gets that without any issues as well. And Orolme still is fighting Harriet right now. Equan is literally about to hit the mech for the 3rd time. He will be finishing the mech, which is a multi-moon boss with a pretty big climb section attached to him. Before Orolme will be able to get out of this boss once again goes to show how slow that actually is. But Equan going for a very fast spin pound to hit Harriet 3rd in.
And gets the final hit out just fine. Target acquired. Yep, and as the boss goes down, we've got Orolme finishing up the Brutals here. Again, that very slow story moon just has a climb to kind of finish off before being able to fight the Mecha Brutal himself. But that was a very solid finish from Equan to Bowser's Kingdom. Not a whole lot of mistakes to really speak of here. I think just the dive off for the Bowser Dram, but did save himself very fluidly there in order to get back up and try again. So showing off a little bit of a flashy optimization there. Has to save no more than like 0.1 of a second, but doing the very fast kind of spin pound into a dash across the Odyssey and into the globe.
And even that is rare. Like, it's even rare to save 0.1. It just looks cool.
Do it for the swag.
Really cool, though. It looks really cool. It's worth
I wonder if
Because
GSA
they
will start
definitely don't lose
initiating.
time.
I wonder if GSA will start initiating swag points.
Oh yeah, we should have a pool of 100 swag points actually. I mean, it should definitely be worth more than winning. Okay, all jokes aside, Equan still driving on that solid lead here, about to go to the moon, as Orolme is starting up his mech fight himself. Let's see if he can at least match Equan's mech, which definitely was super solid once again, getting all hits fast with spin pounds, fast climb, Harriet third, target acquired, everything you can kind of like look for when it comes to an optimized mech. It looks like Orolme will be missing Topper here for a little bit, but this is not going to be the end of him, since he will be able to make it back up top, having to be able to catch a little break here. Hopefully, as long as the mech doesn't really screw him over.
Meanwhile, Equan is approaching the beginning portion of Moon Kingdom here. Did have a little bit of tricky situation with his vectors there, not going and getting the optimal vectors. Did have to take an extra long jump to get across to where he needed to be, but he is still on pace to kind of make this happen. Moon Cave skip coming up.
Very nice mech from both of the runners here. Orolme having some issues there before Topper, and Equan no issues on Moonskip, leaving that behind him. And yeah, I'm pretty sure he's currently looking at almost 3 minutes as far as the lead is concerned. So yeah, it might actually be exactly 3 minutes right now. Let's say like 2:55 is what I can read off of this here, because usually it takes 1 minute and I guess actually 5 seconds when you hit that multi-moon, and then that usual enter timing on that Cascade Cathedral will probably be like 1:30, 1:28, 1:26, depending on how good you are. There's people that can get like a 1:23. But anyways, we are probably looking at 2.5 to 3 minutes right now, as far as the lead is concerned.
Yeah, which means that as long as Equan plays it cool, maybe gets a fast pillar out of this, and perhaps Orolme does not have the most efficient and effective Moon Kingdom, we could see Equan squeeze all of the available points out of this match.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously depends on him potentially closing this one out. Currently at the second phase of the Bowser's fight. About to jump over the fire a little more before he gets his final blow in, and then it's all going to be about that escape.
And now that being said, Equan did not have the greatest of moon starts, so Orolme does have some opportunity to kind of make up some time if his vectors are nice. Oh, but actually missing the phase on this and only on one damage,
HP.
Which means that he can't do any sort of backup strategies here. Might go for this heart just for safety, but yeah, gonna have to back up that last hit.
Okay, there's no reason not to go for that heart other than trying to be cool, but that's definitely the way to go. They just grab that heart, evade these hits, and he will still keep a pretty nice lead here going into the actual escape section. Obviously, that may be losing around 12 seconds, but that would be about it.
Yeah, at this point, Equan is 2 of the kind of major 3 chunks of Moon Kingdom ahead. So it would take a death in the pillar room, essentially, maybe 2, in fact, for this race to become a very close one.
Orolme missing the very top of that of the Sphinx. They're not being able to actually get enough height for the ground pound, but he will be able to do on the second attempt, so Moonskip is done for him. And Equan is currently clawing in on that one bridge that you kind of need to bring down before you are able to get to the 2D section of the escape.
And into the 2D portion with 2D skip coming up here. Very
Easy
flawless
for Equan.
execution.
Absolutely no problem for him. Just manages to scale that section. And yeah, he's about to finish this. We might still be getting a 101 out of him if he plays pillars fantastically. It might be rough. It might actually not be possible. Let's see. I think it is possible if he only loses like 2 seconds to BTT here in the pillars room. But we would more likely look at a very low 102, which is still pretty good. And then, however, I don't think Orolme will be getting a 105. He still might be. we'll see. We are going to give you an update on the exact points these runners will be getting as the time is ending here. We are currently assuming Equan is going to be taking this win. It's looking all like it, unless he would be falling here. It's some of these little holes in that escape section, but there's only one more pillar to go, one more pillar to shoot. Early pillar has been gotten by him, so this is 3 shots right now. Looks like that one will actually be missing, but after these two make their target, and they will, Equan is going to be closing this one out.
Yeah, those shots were a little bit tricky there. It looked like they might have been missing a little bit to the wide left side, but he did get lucky, did manage to land those shots. He is breaking open the pillar. Does look like 101 is out of the question, but he will be getting a 102 OX here.
Nice. Oh, that's a pretty legendary GSA time right there. 102.06. I have seen that one before. For all of the people that saw the Little Cubs versus Stravos match, obviously, that frame tie was actually ending on a 102.06. So yeah, getting that one in the back, 102.06, legendary GSA time, and Equan is going to be taking the win. And now we are going to be looking here at Orolme, who still needs to try his best to be able to get the best time he can. Equan is going to be getting these 40 points just for winning that match to his account, basically, to his standings. And yeah, Orolme is about to finish himself. And then we'll see how the point distribution is going to look like.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to Orolme's execution of the final portion here. Now, of course, a death would probably give all the points to Equan, so we are hoping that Orolme is able to hold out and kind of play this clean throughout the end and try and scrape as many points out of this as he possibly can.
Yeah. The 3 minutes are gone now, unless Orolme makes a really big mistake. I'm pretty sure Equan had the potential to maybe get that, but him having the issue there with the missed Bowser head and also some sloppiness in the pillar room at the very end, that might not be possible anymore. So we are looking more like at something like 2.5 minutes now. So let's see what Orolme can do here to close out the zone. Yeah, math definitely very hard. Looks like Orolme will be shooting the pillar down, will still be getting the early pillars, and we are currently looking at only 1 minute between them. Orolme might still be able to get his time difference even lower if he is able to shoot down that last pillar a little bit more efficient.
So we are looking at 2 minutes of a difference here. Now that does mean we are looking at about 12 points. We're looking at 13 now. As he swipes this last pillar, it's going to be coming into 14 points for Equan. It's going to basically come down to this last portion here, if he's able to squeeze in before the 6. And he is. So, if my math is correct, it looks like Orolme is going to come away with, I think, 4 points out of this.
Yeah, I would need to get confirmation out of this one. It might actually be... Wait, let me check. So this is 30, and then we got more than 30. So I would think it's 4 right now, as you said. But actually, I would think it's 5. It's so hard. We still need to get familiarized with this point system. But yeah, Equan definitely a more solid win here. And depending on how much this is actually going to be, I'm awaiting some confirmation. Equan is obviously going to be getting these 40 points for the win himself, and this is the first match. So even though this might sound like a lot of points, we will be like with this system, it will just be a pretty highly. There will just be a lot of points. Everybody gets points all over the place. So after a few matches, we'll see these standings, I guess, rise up as far as those point totals are considered. But Equan taking that pretty confidently, and I think he's already. What a man, already in the call. What a speedrunner.
Jeez. I'm flying through the call, the Discord right now. It's crazy.
This for real? I can't believe it. But yeah, GG's first league match. The first match, obviously, on your own. I have no idea if you already know who's like how the schedule is looking like as far as the next opponents are looking like. But yeah, taking that one with 2 minutes difference here, 2 minutes and 27 seconds. Yeah, 2 minutes 27 seconds. So I think the 4-point total will be correct there. Basically, looks like you will be getting 15 56 points and 4 for Orolme, which sounds in comparison pretty cheap. But then again, back in the day, you wouldn't have gotten any points, and this was obviously a pretty convincing win. But let me know once again. I think we summarized this race as on your end as far as like going for pretty new strats, even some of the, I guess what you're mainly known for, some of the fancy small things, and then just having to deal with some bigger issues like that fall in Metro that missed Bowser had. But just go over it yourself if you can still recall.
Yeah, so a lot of the hard parts went really well, and then, you know, you always got to mess up the easy parts, but I'm super happy that I got the 9 Metro thing and sort of got the launching thing. But yeah, that I don't even know why I went for the Metro thing, but it worked. So yeah, in these first 2 races, I feel like I got quite lucky with the way that my schedule goes, as like the PBs get better as I go up in the races. So I'm sort of like warming myself up, and eventually I'm gonna have to like race Chaos and that. So yeah, I definitely got to step up my consistency before then.
Yeah, absolutely. I still think this is a win to surely be happy about. Obviously, getting pretty many points out of this one, so nice buffer there. But I mean, I'm obviously not sure who's going to be your opponent in the next matches.
Dansta, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Well, we see how this is developing. Obviously, a lot of action coming your way, and Econ taking this one pretty convincingly. But yeah, for now, we are going to be going offline for just a little bit. We still will be having more league action today. And actually, it's going to be a match in Mario Kart Double Dash, the Time Trials League. Pretty hot stuff. We've seen amazing races out of this one, literally also by milliseconds apart. And this is just literal live racing action. So you better tune in for this one and make sure to follow the channel here. But we are going to be out for just a little bit, and check out the schedule, check out the socials, give us all the commands to be able to always be informed, and see you guys whenever we go live next.
If you're looking for Super Mario Odyssey content specifically, we do have another league match for the Super Mario Odyssey League coming your way tomorrow at 1:45 p.m. That match is between Dansta and Rhea. So if Odyssey is what you're looking for, that is the time to tune in. But yes, Mario Kart Double Dash coming your way in just under 3 hours, I believe. So stay tuned, everyone.